Okay, so the morning is finally upon you, Jon Snow. And today you get to climb that blasted wall. Gosh darn it. Gee whiz. And his first thought upon waking up is his ghost. Did the werewolf understand his instructions? That it says, go to Castle Black, get some Night's Watch guy to allow you inside, and we'll take it from there, mate, because right now we're improvising. We'll figure it all out as we go. That was the best idea he could come up with, Jon, that is, because clearly free climbing isn't for dire wolves, so man and wolf had to part ways. But Jon is uncertain, because he's thinking maybe Ghost, just nodded in the right places, pretending he understood every word I said, but really, it was like in that Gary Larson cartoon, The Far Side. What we say to dogs is, okay, Ginger, I've had it. You stay out of the garbage, understand, Ginger? Stay out of the garbage or else. And what they actually understand is like, blah, 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 Ginger, blah, 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 Ginger, blah, 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 blah. So who knows? We're at the first paragraph of Jon IV from A Storm of Swords, or Jon IV in Roman numerals, or hell, Jon IV, if you like, which I know at this point you will probably demand to know, but surely wasn't Jon IV also the name of a pope? Indeed, I'm glad you asked, because yes, Jon IV was a pope in Rome between 640 and 642 AD, in a context that really does remind one of the troubled times we're seeing in a Song of Ice and Fire, because this Jon IV guy apparently had to contend with the looting and desecration of churches in his native Dalmatia by the Slavs, which kind of reminds me of the Bloody Mummers sacking and desecrating septs in Jamie 3, or the Karstarks, remember, doing pretty much the same in Area 4. So there you go. And since you ask, yes, that's right, Jon IV was indeed also the name of a king, Jon IV, King of Portugal, between 1604 and 1656. There, our culture corner box has been ticked. No, but seriously, let's go back to our Jon. Welcome, dear listener. Let's get into it. Jon is frowning. When is he not frowning? Looking up at the sky, the sword of the morning shining in all its glory. There you go. Bright white star in its hilt blazing like a diamond in the dawn. There, by now it's official. The sword of the morning is indeed the North Star, or Polaris, if you had any lingering doubts. Meanwhile, the two guys in charge of this expedition, Stur the Fen, Magnar, and Jarl, have already done all their homework. Outriders east and west, on the lookout for possible, Night's Watch patrols, and searching for the ideal spot to climb the wall, where it's at the highest, seemingly, but in fact, most of its height is constituted by a hill that sort of buttresses the wall. So one can just reach the top of the hill and bada bing bada boom, Bob's your uncle. Yeah. That still doesn't mean that the wall will climb itself, yeah? But this description of that particular spot of the wall, which you remember from the previous Jon POV chapter, is somewhere between Stone Door and Greyguard. That's sort of like, coupled with something that Jon remembers hearing from his uncle Benjen, namely that the wall is straight as a sword east of Castle Black, but curvy as a snake west of Castle Black. And I remember that description there, just that line, the throwaway line, sort of gave rise to some online debate way back, blogs and stuff. Because the big question being, does that mean, it's curvy as a snake? What does that mean in height? Surely that cannot be, because the wall is always described as 700 feet tall throughout its entire length. Just look it up. No, 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 no. Surely George R. R. Martin meant that it has a curvy shape when looked at from above, aerial view, which I always thought was kind of a weird fact to point out in the middle of a discussion that clearly focuses on the wall's height, and the varying difficulty in climbing it. But I thought, all right, okay. I used to buy into that argument on a first read. But now I'm actually looking at the official map that came with A Dance of Dragons, drawn by Jeffrey L. Ward. And you can see the aerial view of the wall is right there, because that's the sort of view you get on a map by definition. And does it look all that curvy to you? In fact, the only curve you can see there is precisely where Grey Door happens to be, presumably because of that hill that Jarl has chosen as the starting point for the climb. So yeah, tell me what you think. It's in height. I reckon it's in height. It's the shape of the top of the wall that's described as curvy as a snake, is what it seems to me. And it's actually explained rather well. Jarl, here's the text. Yes, Jarl had chosen to assault the stretch of ice along the ridge. Here, though the top of the wall loomed 800 feet above the forest floor, a good third of that height was earth and stone rather than ice. Yeah, meanwhile, the Thanes are still in awe of the wall as Jon realizes they're looking at it for the first time. Because, yeah, it's all relative, isn't it? All over the Seven Kingdoms, the wall is seen as the end of the world. And beyond that, it's almost uncharted territory, practically. But that's also how the free folk view it, except they view it from the north. And, yeah. So, but Jon has other concerns right now. Remember that theme of being trapped, just hinted at in the previous Jon POV chapter? The fact that there was nowhere for him and Ygritte to run to? Well, now George R. R. Martin spells it out loud and clear. Here's the text. Literal verbatim quote: "If he abandoned her," that's Ygritte, "to return to his duty, the Magnar might cut her heart out." There, nice. And if he took her with him, assuming she would go, which was far from certain, well, he could scarcely bring her back to Castle Black to live among the brothers. A deserter and a wildling could expect no welcome anywhere in the Seven Kingdoms. There. So, yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Jarl's men, on the other hand, they don't look all that impressed. And in fact, most of them have climbed the wall before, which I guess is why Mance has embedded Jarl and company to the Thanes for this enterprise. And they're pulling out all their equipment. Look at that. Hempen rope, boots with spikes jutting out of their toes. Some made of metal, some made of bone, depending on one's budget. Spikes, ice axes. Yeah, somehow all that equipment still doesn't strike me as super safe. But anyway, the guys are efficient. Jarl is not just a pretty face, turns out. And they divide their own group into 3 teams to inject a bit of healthy inter-group competition. Climb every mountain. Yeah, they're all motivated and stuff. Come on, lads, we're making history today. Even though Jon is thinking, yeah, whatever. It's not like the wildlings haven't climbed the wall 100 times before, with mixed success. Do you know how many times our patrols have found broken bodies, the bodies of those who tried and failed plunging to their deaths? Although, he's kind of forced to admit that Team Jarl seems to mean business. They seem to know their stuff. Not so sure about Stur's guys. So Jon, Ygritte, Stur, and basically everyone else, they all stay behind watching the action from the ground. And what these 12 climbers do, Ygritte taps Jon on the shoulder, hey, watch, there they go. What these climbers are doing is actually exploit the trees in all their height, because the forest grows so close to the wall and so high that for the first half of the climb, they don't even have to touch the ice structure of the wall. They can simply climb the trees. See, it's all down and to how poorly manned the Night's Watch actually is in these days, because they obviously didn't have enough men to do a proper deforestation job in the woods adjacent to the wall between Stone Door and Greyguard. I mean, they must have seen the state of that forest, every time they went out on patrol, shaking their heads, rolling their eyes. Ooh, will you look at that? But no one ever did a thing about it. And they're doing a terrific job, these climbers, led by Jarl. I mean, super professional. The whole team in formation, all tied together by this hempen rope. They're using all their equipment, while the other two teams are a bit behind. That Grig the Goat, who was briefly mentioned in the previous Jon POV chapter, and he's leading the team to the right, and some guy called Erok is at the head of the team on the left. But they're all a good 20 yards behind, or should I say below Team Jarl, who's clearly got the lead on this. Stir the Magnar, in the meantime, is acting like a guy, watching football on TV from an armchair. Oh, come on, go faster, mate. I could have made that. He's like a backseat driver kind of guy. Oh, come on, why are they so slow? And Johnny's thinking, yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing you out there, mate. Do you have any idea what it's like climbing a wall of ice? It's treacherous is what it is. But he can't help hoping some Night's Watch patrol does chance upon those 12 wildlings and puts an end to their climb, with a few well-placed arrows and perhaps a pail of stones. And we all know why Jon is hoping for that. So if the Night's Watch take care of the invaders, then Jon himself won't have to lift a finger and actually personally betray his new free folk team, which would rather suck at this point, now that he's kind of like, he's one of them. Yeah. But as they often say, the wall defends itself, because Jarl at some point encounters a patch of ice that gives way and falls for a bit, sort of like bungee jumping, But luckily for him, the spikes don't come off. And, now that Jon and company are watching the whole team in real time, the image of sports commentators is even more obvious, All right, Team Jarl seems to be advancing by leaps and bounds. Let's hope he doesn't encounter a bad patch of... Oh, no. Yeah, he's just fallen back by a good 10 yards. Yeah. Major setback for Team Jarl. What do you think? That's right, Paul. Choosing a patch of ice directly exposed to the sunlight. We all know how deceptive ice can be. That was not the type of mistake I expected someone as experienced as Jarl to make. Oh, no. Let's hope this doesn't... Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, yeah, it's really... the image is really that, because we're all getting a second-hand account of that. You remember that on the HBO series, they placed all of those people... those characters, Jon, Ygritte, and the character played by Mackenzie Crook, which I think is two different characters rolled in one. Orel and that other skin changer whose name escapes me now. Yeah, why can't I? Never mind. And they're all there. They're all there climbing the wall. I don't know. I think this makes for a better, it's a different type of POV. It's the POV of someone who is watching the climb, right, rather than taking part in it. Because it's better because it gives us a more, complete overview of what's going on, I think. So yeah, really, check out this image. Yeah, here we go. Look at this text. Deerhorn axes chopped and hacked, sending showers of glittery shards cascading down onto the trees. That's some great writing, isn't it? Yeah. And they've all been at it for 6 hours by now, and it's practically noon when the Magnar comments on Jarl's progress. Look at him go. He must really want a sword so badly, huh? Yeah, because that's right. I forgot to tell you. Castle forged swords have been promised to the team that gets on top first. But really, Stir should have kept his mouth shut, because he jinxed the boy. That's right, it happens again, but this time it's fatal. A block of ice, some 50 square feet wide, 1 foot thick, comes off, and the whole team plunges to their deaths. Ouch. And I like the fact that Jon's first thought at that point is this to protect Ygritte, because some chunks of ice come spinning through the trees where they're watching the whole thing from, and he immediately grabs her down to shield her. Good lad, good lad. And when they stand up again, what they see is this: blood spattered on the wall, Jarl's team all impaled on a tree, kind of like a daisy chain. One of them is even alive, but all shattered and in agony, so they give him a mercy killing. Stir is all like, all right, let's have a good old funeral pyre, yeah, as well. Lads, come on, let's get to it. Clearly they came prepared, with fire and fuel and everything. They're kind of like expecting that, weren't they? So eventually the two remaining teams make it to the top and toss down all the ropes tied together, 700 feet of rope, to which the team that stayed below ties a sort of ladder also made of rope. Interesting approach. And so somehow they put together all bits of ladders together, joined to the original rope, and end up with this ginormous ladder that the rest of the band of wildlings uses to reach the top of the wall. Still no sign of any Night's Watch patrol in the meantime, yeah? And as they all climb up, it takes them until sundown to complete the whole operation. In the meantime, 2 more Thens fall off and die. Yeah, well, clearly not the easiest ladder to climb. And Ygritte has 2 more opportunities to remind Jon that the latter's knowledge is very limited indeed. Or, you know nothing, Jon Snow, in her own words. The first time is when she corrects Jon on the material the wall is made of. Because she remarks how cold it is, and Jon points out, like, duh, it's made of ice. To which she goes, no, it's made of blood. Da, da, da. Which could mean a lot of things, of course. The blood of all... we just witnessed it. The blood of people who try to climb it. So, it's all the lives that he claimed. But spells and magic may well have been involved in the making of this wall. So who knows? Are there people buried in the deepest structure of the... Who knows? There you go. The second time, Ygritte reminds Jon of his poor knowledge of things in general, is when Jon sees her crying and tells her, hey, it's all right, mate. The worst is behind us, No need to be scared. He does this men reassuring, men comforting, menforting. I'm sure that someone somewhere has come up with these terms. Menforting. At which point she explains in anger that no, I'm not scared. She goes, I'm not scared. She's sad. She says she's sad because look at how many casualties, we suffered to climb the damn wall. And she reckons they could have simply brought the whole thing down if only they had the Horn of Joramun, a.k.a. the Horn of Winter. She goes, we must have opened like 100 graves and let all those souls loose in the world, and it was all for nothing because we never found the damn thing. Now, I actually paraphrased that quote from Ygritte because she didn't actually say souls, she said shades. That's how I interpret it. Shades as in shadows, so maybe souls. souls resting in those graves, but I might be wrong. Some people pointed out, I think this was in the analysis, the commentary they made on Not a Cast podcast, poor Quentin and the other lads, that it might actually mean shades as in more recruits for the others, because once you open up a grave, there's a skeleton inside, and kind of like a Jason and the Argonauts, remember those stop motion skeletons moving, dun, dun, dun. And they potentially made more recruits available to the army of the others, the Winter Army, whatever you want to call it. So but yeah, otherwise, if it's neither of those interpretations, that it's very enigmatic what she says there. It's a great throw, but it's a great throwaway line. Not so much but the whole search, the reference to the search that the wildlings engaged in the search of this horn of Joramun. It's a great throwaway line, because it connects to some very interesting points in these novels. First, remember that the Great Ranging up north was in part motivated by trying to find out what Mance Raider's wildlings were after, traveling all en masse. I mean, of course, this was the question asked by the Night's Watch, high-ranking officers, Lord Commander Jerome Mormont, and Corin Halfhand, etc., who never even considered the fact that maybe the wildlings were simply fleeing from the others. Capital O, those guys. So initially we sort of dismissed this whole MacGuffin notion. They're not looking for anything. Even when Corin Halfhand said to Jon, join the wildlings, be one of them, try to find out as much as you can about why they're so far from home, all the way down here. So we all assumed that, yeah, dude, it's because White Walkers, that's what they're running from. But now, Ygritte candidly tells Jon that yes, they have been opening up graves in the search of this big MacGuffin, kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, Bang, bang, oh, that's not in it. Yeah, okay, let's open the next coffin then. And if it had occurred to Corin to question Ygritte, when they captured her way, way back, maybe under duress, I'm not suggesting, I'm not condoning that, but... we know that Shadow Tower guys are not shy when it comes to, what's the euphemism, enhanced interrogation, when a captive doesn't seem willing to cooperate. Basically torture, okay. But if it had occurred to Halfhand to question Ygritte, say, what are you guys after down here? Maybe that Night's Watch would have gotten that info and Corin would still be alive, huh? Unless, do you think that maybe they would have still continued their ranging north just to have a look at the sheer size of the wildlings' armies marching towards the Seven Kingdoms? Could that be... Anyway, second thing that what Ygritte just told us, second interesting point that it connects to Horn of Winter. Okay, why anyway? Why if the first time reader might go, yeah, the Horn of Joramun. If you had that, then the wall wouldn't be an obstacle. Wouldn't be an obstacle to reckon with anymore. What's that about? Why is this Horn of Winter so important anyway? Well, it is said. You see, the Horn of Winter is said to have magical powers, to the extent that if you blow it, the wall will come down. There, simple as that. And I know what you're thinking, because given the tone of these novels, it kind of smells like a big anticlimax in the making. Something tells me we won't be seeing the actual horn being blown and the whole wall of ice come crumbling down as a consequence of that. Magic does exist in this universe, but so far, I could be wrong on all of this, most likely, in fact. But so far, we've seen magic used sparingly, and there's always a weird price to pay, sort of like a transfer of energy, as it were. But who knows? Maybe not. Maybe we will see that spectacular scene in the final climax. What do you think, dear listener? Third point, let's not forget that bundle that Jon found buried at the foot of the fist of the first man. At the foot of the fist. A foot attached to a fist. Like in Reanimator, isn't it? With an eyeball in the middle. At the bundle, back in A Clash of Kings, Jon IV. Interesting. This is Jon IV. Huh? Coincidence? Oh, I think not, perhaps. I just noticed that for the first time. Shame on me. In Jon IV, A Clash of Kings, it was actually Ghost who found something interesting at the foot of the fist of the first man. He found something interesting. The dire wolf was digging furiously. Let me read the passage to you, because I got it right here. I knew I was going to bring it up. That's how smart I am. Whatever was there had been buried recently. Jon brushed the loose soil away to reveal a rounded bundle, perhaps 2 feet across. Okay. Right? Yeah, I'm just going to skip a few sentences. A length of frayed rope bound the bundle together. Jon unsheathed his dagger and cut it, groped for the edges of the cloth and pulled. The bundle turned and its contents spilled out onto the ground, glittering dark and bright. He saw a dozen knives, leaf-shaped spearheads, numerous arrowheads. Jon picked up a dagger blade, featherlight and shiny black, hiltless, dragon glass, what the maesters call obsidian. Beneath the dragon glass was an old war horn, nudge, nudge, made from an aurochs horn and banded in bronze. The cloth the weapons had been wrapped in was good wool, thick, a double weave, damp but not rotted. It could not have been long in the ground. Lots of clues we're given here. And it was dark. He seized a handful and pulled it close to the torch. Not dark, black. The black cloak of a sworn brother of the Night's Watch. Bam, bam, bam. Jon IV A Clash of Kings. So this was an abridged passage from that chapter, but the point is, huge mystery. Which sworn brother of the Night's Watch, assuming it was a sworn brother of the Night's Watch, went and buried the obsidian weapons in there and the war horn? And could this war horn indeed be the Horn of Winter? No one has the answers to these questions, with possibly the exception of George R.R. Martin, but I'm not even so sure. What I do know is that at the time of recording this, The Winds of Winter hasn't yet come out. Dear listener, I really do hope you're listening to this from a better era, historical age, where you can simply waltz into any bookstore and give me, if you like, give me a little copy, that copy over there of The Winds of Winter, Bantam edition, Harper's Voyager. I don't care. Just give it over. Because right now, we're all just starved for Ice and Fire content. So yeah, it hasn't been released as of yet, and but the marketing behind the book's publication released the book cover on the internet ages ago. I think as far back as when the Dance with Dragons was being released to the public. And every book cover you see online for The Winds of Winter does feature this horn. I mean, I'm assuming that it's the Horn of Winter, because Winds of Winter, Horn of Winter, unless, of course, it's another certain horn that will make its appearance in A Feast for Crows. Bah. Be it as it may, I would advise to keep an eye on these lovely little trinkets that Jon found. The horn, the daggers, arrowheads, which by the way must be in his rucksack right now that he's on top of the wall, right? I'm thinking, yeah, because he's not going back. He hasn't left all his worldly possessions behind. So I'm assuming he's got everything with him. Did he climb the wall on that hempen rope ladder with that very horn in his rucksack? Not to mention all those obsidian weapons. Wow, can you imagine? He's standing on top of the wall. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, here's the story. Okay, imagine this scene. Okay, so imagine if he just wanted to be all cocky with the grit and say, what horn of Joramun? Do you mean perhaps this one? And he just pulls out the horn out of his bag and goes, how's that? You still think I don't know nothing? And then he blows it, thereby collapsing the entire wall structure, plunging everyone to their deaths. The end. Yeah, that would be... But, readers of this series of books have thrown books against the wall before, upon reading certain passages and go, oh, no, come on. It has happened. I don't want, if you're a first-time reader, and I envy you for that, I don't want to deprive you of the pleasure of throwing the book against the wall or against any surface around you. When you come across those chapters where, Georgie boy pulls the rug from under your feet. But yeah, no, but this not. So far, no. We really know nothing. We, much like Jon, know nothing about this, the fate of what happened to this horn of Joramun. And, yeah. But be it as it may, some readers do reckon that unassuming horn, currently in Jon's backpack, is indeed the big MacGuffin, the Horn of Winter. Who knows? What do you think? We will encounter references to horns here and there. Tormund will say, I reckon that there've been. Okay, I'd rather not say too much because I've got this no spoiler policy, and I know that I slip sometimes, and I just can't help it. But no, shut up, Salsa. You've said too much, dear listener. All I'll say now is, thank you for following me this far. That was a pleasure to commentate this chapter together with you. And if you enjoy this sort of content, don't forget to do all of the things that regular people do under these circumstances. And I, for one, look forward to talking to you again. You feel free to navigate to the next Jon chapter, the next Storm of Swords, or indeed, feel free to navigate wherever you want or nowhere at all. It's a free continent. So in the meantime, be safe, and looking forward to talking to you again soon. Ciao.